Welcome to the Kahler Podcast, episode 8. This time we're going to be talking about the 2300, the features, the benefits, the differences, all that kind of stuff. We're going to have another thing on the 2300 and the Tremolo Wars next week. So that's coming up next week. We've asked you guys to submit your comments. You can certainly do it here too, as to why you feel that Floyd Rose won the Tremolo Wars. It's time for viewer comments first. What do you say, Gary? You ready?
I am ready. I just want you to know about the Tremolo Wars that we survived.
Well, here's the important thing. Floyd might have won. Who came in third place? Nobody. Nobody came in third place.
There was no third place.
There was no third place.
Damn. So that's why we're here.
Scott C. says, R-E-A. He was nice enough, too, to spell it out phonetically, just like the last guy. But he actually spelled it out correctly phonetically. This running joke, which I was really thinking would be funny, has gotten a little bit out of control. So be careful what you wish for. But anyway, he says, Aria. It's from Opera Eddie. For Badlands, near to the time they started those, Phil talked about a shop where he was going to go film, but saw things that weren't kosher going on there, either ventilation or something. And he told them they probably didn't want it on the internet. I think whomever, that was who's making them. I think whomever that is, who's making them. I thought the whole Badlands thing was just a TK vanity project. TK being the Tone King.
TK means what?
The Tone King. He's one of the partners with the Badlands.
I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
So, getting back to Aria, it's from Opera Eddie. Well, you know what? No, it's not. It's the guy's last name, correct?
Yes.
I had the same thing stated to me by the kid that grew up to me next door, who I taught to play guitar back in the 80s, who is now a music teacher at a school. He said, and Aria is from opera. And I was like, yeah, and it's also the guy's last name. SlapMehhh says the colored Kahlers are so cool. Now, he's talking about the Kahler Kolors series, and in particular, those red, white, and blue 4th of July 2300s that we made out of, Gary made, he wouldn't let me touch them, out of the few Kahler Kolor series that we had left.
That's right. We did that, red, white, and blue for the flag. We couldn't figure out a place to put the stars.
Yeah.
So we'll just imagine the stars are there somewhere, flying high in the right place.
There you go. Or you hit yourself in the head with a hammer and you'll see stars just like in the cartoon. HOLOCULT says, I know you hate counterfeits, but this better be good. I own what I believe to be, by the serial number, an 85 Epiphone Neptune, I believe it's called. Basically a 1-to-1 clone of a Jackson Brandy Rhodes plywood body set neck, through construction strat scale, and factory Kahler flyer. It's actually for sale for way more than it's worth, because I doubt I can part with it. The serial number is a sticker which tells me that it was probably made in Korea by Samick. How about that for a counterfeit? That's not a counterfeit. A counterfeit says the name of the manufacturer that they're copying. That's counterfeit.
Yeah. The counterfeits all have our name on it. Kahler USA with an R for registration, as well as Trem, X-Trem, with an R for registration.
Yes.
And they're registered in 13 countries plus the United States, and particularly registered in China.
Now, I want to clarify this whole counterfeit thing a little bit more, and I want to tell you guys why I personally hate counterfeit guitars. So, I had this friend, keyword here, had this friend, who came up to me one day and said, hey man, you ever heard of a Gibson? And I said, no, what the hell's a Gibson? And he was like, it's a Chinese fake Gibson. They're every bit as good as a Gibson, but they only cost like $150. This was a while ago.
Well, that's so ridiculous.
It's idiotic. It's important to note that this guy was one of these guys who, instead of practicing, would buy the latest doodad or gewgaw that promised to make him a better player rather than sitting down and practicing. He'd rather spend his money than his sweat equity. Pretty common problem. I said, no, I've never heard of such a thing. This was quite a while ago. And so he said, well, I just happened to buy one. And so he pulled the thing out, and from a distance, it looked just like a Gibson Les Paul. When I got up close and started looking at it, I started noticing things that were completely wrong. And he said, I want to do an experiment. I want to see if I can get Gibson quality while not paying Gibson prices. And I was like, buy an Epiphone. And he said, no, I want it to say Gibson, and I want it to this and that. And I was like, well, then buy a Gibson. And he was like, no, they cost too much money.
Yeah, well, you know what I think about that? I think that's all bullshit.
I mean, couldn't agree
if you're
more.
going to buy something, you want to buy counterfeits, you want to buy absolute counterfeit pieces and think you're saving money while you're putting Americans out of business. That's pure bullshit.
Here's how this story ended. He asked me what to get to make it good, so I told him, and he bought the cheap Chinese equivalent off of Amazon of everything I told him. That like half of it didn't work when it got there. So I started putting in good stuff, and the thing is that this guitar was made out of such cheap wood that it started pulling the bridge apart, right? It started pulling the bridge out, and I looked at this guy and I said, hey, listen, you said this is an experiment. Well, I'm going to call this a failure because...
There's no experiment about that.
Well,
I want to tell you something.
Please.
The counterfeiters.
Holy shit, did you just really say that?
I'm telling you, and they aren't only stealing from our company, they're stealing from all Americans.
Yeah, they really...
That's why we got people out of work today and on the streets.
Well, that is the whole thing too, is that we have gotten to a point where we don't realize that in the desperate attempt to save money, we're actually, by buying things that have been outsourced, we are actually putting our own livelihoods in jeopardy.
All I can say to that, it isn't a matter of saving money. It's a matter of them making more money, whoever makes the counterfeiter, and passing it off on somebody else's mark. Keep in mind, they did not do the R&D on that. They didn't do the pilot runs. They didn't take the time and the money. They didn't patent it, because obviously that costs tens of thousands of dollars to patent anything. And then some damn attorney will take advantage of that. Even an attorney you don't have to pay will take it on to defend it. I mean, it's just all bullshit.
Now, we do have a counterfeit guitar on the way here that has a counterfeit Kahler, and I am going to pull that thing apart and show you guys why it's not the deal you think.
And I'm going to take a damn good look at that bridge and explain to you why that's a counterfeit, because it's using our marks, looks exactly like our piece, and anybody gets stuck with that or wants to go buy that, you're doing the wrong thing, man.
Not only that, it's not user serviceable. The second that one of those parts goes bad, you're screwed.
And that ours won't fit. It's all in metric. And ours in SAE. So it even gets more confusing. People call us and say, well, I got to have this, I got to have that. And they'll order the parts from us, not telling us they got a goddamn counterfeit. And believe it or not, the part doesn't work. Now we not only pull the part, send it to them, we got a pissed off customer because SAE doesn't fit metric, and we get the parts back up our ass. So figure that one out. I don't think we want to be happy about that. I don't think anybody does.
No, I don't think there's a positive way to spin that. But, well, no, wait, there is. Because you know what? Even when somebody has a counterfeit, you will give them a 20% discount to surrender that counterfeit towards the purchase of a real bridge.
Well, it really is. And I look at it this way. It isn't going to work. The counterfeit's not going to work. Or we'll give you 20% off for that piece of shit. So you tell me what you want. Now, the people that import counterfeits or lookalikes or copies or whatever you want to call them, they can import that stuff for pennies on the dollar. As to what it costs us to do it. And then they mark it up 3 times. So if you're buying a counterfeit like for $150, I guarantee you whoever sold it to you making a $100 bill. And that is pure bullshit. They hurt Floyd Rose just the way they hurt us. I mean, there's no different. We all get hurt by that stuff. And I only say this on this day of celebration. This happens to be the 4th.
Yeah, we are pre-recording this on the 4th of July.
4th. And I got to tell you, we got to do something about this. We got to take the people off the streets and put them to work. Manufacturing is the best. Anybody can drill a damn hole. Yep. And the fact is, we got the tooling so they can do that. But if we don't have the business, we can't do that. So yes, our stuff costs more money. And I know this is kind of a rant, and maybe a lot of you ain't going to like this shit.
I love the rant.
I am telling you, this is important. And all I can tell you is that we plan to stay in business.
And just to be clear, look, foreign competition is fine. Nobody's saying that it's not. But when somebody is just stealing your design and reverse engineering it and putting your trademark on it, even the model, even the little T that stands for trademark.
Listen, I want to tell you, one of my best friends in the world was Helmut Scheller out of Germany, and he was a fair competitor. He made some really good stuff. He and I were great friends, and I'm friends with a whole lot of people around the world, but not a dirty, filthy counterfeiter. That we are not friends with. And to find out who they are and where they are will cost tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
There are attorneys that won't even take the case because they say, well, it's going to cost you too much money. How much money you got, Gary? Have you got $50,000 to find out who this is?
It's unwinnable.
And you can't do a damn thing about it.
It's like whack-a-mole. The second you get one, the other one comes up.
They put one out of business, and there's 2 more to come up somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
This whole counterfeiting business is bullshit, and somebody got to put an end to it.
So let me make this absolutely clear. Your Epiphone that looks a lot like a Jackson Randy Rhodes, it says Epiphone on it. It's not a counterfeit.
I can just say about counterfeits and stuff puts thousands and thousands of people out of work. I know that we could have 60 more people, 60 more people working in our factory if it wasn't for counterfeits.
I think that's all there is to say about that one.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that was good. I really like that.
I want you to put what I said.
No! God damn it, I really wanted you to say fuck.
No, I don't want to.
You're killing me.
Everybody will know what I said, but
I know they will. Okay.
Bullshit's fine.
Yeah. Okay. We've got 2 in a row here that are related, so I'm going to address both these. Angel Supremacy 123 says, just want to let you all know there's some weird buzzing going on when Eddie is in his shop. This also happened in the last episode of the podcast. Other than that, great work. I really support the direction this company is taking. Well, that's awesome. And then the other one, 2DCLAN Snipping Team says, too much reverb on those mics. So many exclamation points. All right, let me explain this very quickly. You see the headphones. You see the microphones. What you don't see is the Mackie DLC over there. The thing completely and totally self-adjusts and all kinds of other things like that. Now, we have been kind of trying to deal with mic placement and other things of that nature. And on the very last podcast, the output was turned up to a point where it distorted and it sounded like reverb. At my workbench, I don't have this set up. At my workbench, it's a Rode shotgun microphone that's running through the preamps of my fanciest camera and things like that. But we've got ambient noises that you're not going to hear through the podcast thing. This is a work in progress, you guys. And, as time goes on, it will get better. Every now and then there will be a couple things that kind of go awry here and there. Everybody's susceptible to it. That's all I can say about that. Next, once again, our old buddy HOLOCULT. Hopefully he's still here. None of that counterfeit was aimed at you, buddy. It says, oh man, yes, the world needs more bass whammies. Please play some Raven on it. Okay, what he's talking about is that crazy 7-string Ibanez 4-fretted, 3-fretless string thing from the Sam Ash going out of business video. Boy, oh boy. See, now that's the kind of company Kahler is. is that we see something insane like that, and rather than going like, who'd play that, we're like, wow.
It's really a nice piece of work, and a lot of thought went into it.
A lot.
I mean, really.
Well, that's version 2. Version 1.
Yep.
I've got version 1 right over there. It's a shadow of version 2.
But we can add to it. We can put a tremolo on it.
Yeah.
We can do a number of things with it.
Yep.
I noticed that bass even has doesn't have MIDI on it, but it has.
No. It's got piezo's, piezos.
Yeah, piezo pickups on it. Yeah. And so that's going to be interesting when we go to put a Kahler on it, because rollers do not work with piezos.
No.
But in any case, we'll figure it out, and it's going to be a real beast when we get it done.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and I got to tell you guys, I am more a bass player than I am a guitar player, and I have been playing the living hell out of that thing, and I absolutely love it. Now, one last thing, please play some Raven on it. Wow. You know what? I think back in 1985 when I was 15, I saw Raven. I saw the Wild Dogs open for Metal Church, open for Raven. I did not notice that guy with a bass whammy bar. I have no idea, but man, I got to tell you, Raven was this heavy metal band, and you know what's really wild about them? They had this drummer that they called Mr. Wacko.
Oh, Wacko.
And he wore like hockey stuff, like the helmet, the helmet and everything.
Sure. Oh,
and,
I saw a picture of that. Yes.
Yeah, and he did this drum solo, and at the end of the drum solo, he had pyro hooked up to his helmet, and his helmet would go kaboom, and he'd have fire come. I'll tell you what, at 15 years old, that was some badass shit. These last couple comments are all about our offer that we're doing right now during the month of July. We got a promotion going on with all of our cam bridges, and there's a video for that. I'll put a link in right here. SlapMehh says, awesome video. I love seeing Inside Kahler. We will be putting more stuff of Gary bending bars and things like that in this video.
That's for bend your own bar and they get it for free.
Yes.
That's this month, and we're going to explain more about it.
That's right. You get a bonus raw bar, the raw dog, and the raw dog, and we don't ever give me an inch because I will take a mile. Next comment is from Aaron Walker 5990. Super groovy idea. I look forward to seeing some of the results. Happy July.
They can do a number of things. Do anything.
You do anything.
Put that knob straight up and drive it like a gear shift. That's what you want to do.
Hey man, find a little mini 8-ball to put on the end of it and make it like a gear shift. You know.
Oh my God.
I mean, carve up your guitar to where it looks like the inside of a semi-truck. I don't know. You're only limited by your imagination. Garrett Boomerbender says, making it hard to save money. I already have a Gold 2300 I haven't done anything with. Considering a parts build, what bodies come with a Kahler route? Does anyone know of custom builders that can do a Kahler route? Yes, we do.
We do. We really do.
We do. You know what? Vegas Guitars, they will do one for you.
Well, 6 Gun will do it too.
6 Gun will do one. You can buy any number of bodies off of the internet that are pre-Kahler routed. Warmoth, it's off menu. It's not something they advertise, but if you call them and you ask them, I think there's an upcharge, but they'll do it. We're on a mission right now to let everybody know that, hey, you know what? But we're not only are we still here, but there's a lot of misinformation on the cam-based systems, and we're going to spend the next couple podcasts talking about that. We did actually post the question in video form, why do you think that Floyd Rose won those Tremolo Wars? And we are going to go through and we are going to address all of the pertinent points. If you just go, one guy came on and went, Kahlers are garbage in my clothes, LOL, your t-shirt doesn't make any sense. And it's like, all right, fine, idiot. You're disregarded. Everything that people think about they're hard to adjust. They're far easier to adjust.
Who says they're hard to adjust?
Everybody.
Oh, really? You mean a Kahler is?
Can you believe it?
No, I don't believe it.
It's easier.
Ours is easier to adjust than a regular Fulcrum. That's for sure.
Our cam bridges are easier to adjust than our fulcrum bridges. Our fulcrum bridges, you adjust. Our fulcrum bridges are easier to adjust than most fulcrum bridges.
I guess we could say that, yes.
Hey, you don't have to worry about putting the saddle on the wrong spot with ours.
No, we do the best we can. And we'll change. If somebody comes up and sends us an email saying, why are you doing it this way? They may have something that we never thought of, and we damn well will change it.
It's important to note that we're constantly modifying, changing, testing things all the time. There have been people who have said, why don't you do it like this? And it's something you already tried and it doesn't work.
No, we have. We've made prototypes, sent them back to the person that suggested it and said, damn, this really doesn't work. But, but many of them do. And so I particularly really like the creativity that somebody has. So let us know. Maybe we didn't think of it.
As mentioned before, today is all about the cam bridges. That's going to be both flat mount and stud mount. And both of those are available in both the professional and the hybrid. I've done videos in the past about the difference between the professional and the hybrid. We'll put a link in there. It's really important to know. The first thing to talk about is the flat mount and the stud mount. Gary, what can you tell us?
Well, the stud mount to the flat mount has, put it this way, it has exactly the same guts in it, same cam, same everything. The only difference is the plate, so that it connects to studs rather than 4 screws to do that. So obviously it's a Gibson type and a Fender type. Everything we're talking about with cams and saddles is something that will work on both plates.
There have been some really, really clever people out there that have put a flat mount onto a Les Paul. The best example I can think of is Jeff Hanneman's Les Paul that has a 2300. It was put on there by Chris Poland while he was working under Neil Moser at BC Rich. People have done it. However, it would be easier for you to put the stud mount on something that had a Tune-o-matic style on there.
We definitely have these new studs that we have them in different colors as well. And you can put these studs in, and they are lockdown studs. Put that on, put this in. I can even go in with a wrench and through the first one and turn it to clock it so that I can adjust the whole plate up and down.
It's one of the very few things that Kahler makes in both standard and metric.
Yes, we do.
Because we don't want you to have to yank out your inserts.
Don't want you.
That's a good way to chip finish. That's a good way to compromise the integrity of your guitar.
Yes, it is.
Next on the list is the cam options. Now we're gonna probably stick more to the professional on this, and we'll talk about the hybrid cam towards the end.
So what we got on all the professional units, and the reason we call them that, is because we want you to have options. Everybody that's a top regional player or a pro player has their own ideas about sound, own ideas about feel, and of course the form, the fit, and the function is important. The most popular cam that we have, of course, is 100% 360 half hard brass cam. This is how it comes right off of our mills, just like that, out of a solid piece of brass. We have a cross hole that we have to drill all the way across this cam because we have this side for left-handed, the other side for right-handed. So in order to put that clutch in, that is off center line. And we make this, and then we compress this piece and slide it all in.
Let's give a little definition of terms. ID and OD.
ID is inside dimension, OD is outside dimension. Like this is for the arm, it goes all the way through. These don't, because they are controlling the clutch. And then this one here in the middle goes all the way through.
That's our load lever.
These are IDs with threads, and that's what adjusts the load lever. What I'm going to do is to unscrew this screw. So here we got what we call a screw with a point on it, and that point is going to go into this composite inside the cam. And I could actually put an arm in here that when I go to tighten this screw, right now the arm is freestyle. Now the arm will go wherever you want it.
And it'll stay there. So that right there is what not only the that hole in between the middle and the very bottom part is,
Yes.
but exactly on the other side, it's a mirror image. So you've got a place to put a bar with its own clutch on either side. So
on either side, and that could be a bar or a palm lever or whatever you may choose to use. This is for arm here and arm there, and this is the clutch for the one and the clutch for the other. The middle screw right here is for the adjustment of this load lever right here. The load lever springs attached to right here. You can see as I screw this in how that lever is moving because of the screw. Now, the further this moves back, the tighter those springs are going to be. You know, if you're using 838s, or if there is such a thing.
If there is such a thing.
Yeah.
738s.
Yeah, 738s. Or if you're going to use 1352s, I mean...
The Nashville tuning strings. Nashville tuning strings are the lightest guitar strings I know of.
Right. Okay, so what we got here, we have 3 different flavors here, Cam. 3 different substrates, 3 different metals. This is 360 half hard brass. We got 1030 steel, so it has additional carbon in it. It's a little better. Plus, we also have an aluminum cam. Now, this is made out of aircraft aluminum. The call out I could get to, but nobody would know what it was. But it's exactly the same, made off the same mills at different feeds and speeds, of course. Now, what's the difference in the sounds? Well, the brass has been the most traditional, because in the very beginning in the 1980s, we made everything out of brass. It is working more in the lower harmonics. Whereas if you use steel, it will definitely amplify the highers more in the overtone series. Now, generally people use aluminum strictly for weight. If they're working all night, they're getting heavy, they want to save about, it's about an 8-ounce difference. The sound quality coming out of aluminum is in the ears of the beholder.
How diplomatic.
No, well, that's true, though. It really is. A lot of people really like it. But I can tell you the difference between the brass and the steel. This one is going to be better on the lows, and it's not going to amplify the highs quite as much, whereas steel really does amplify the highs more in the overtone series. So now, for all these 3 cams, we have exactly the same fine-tuning system, what we call the cage, with the string hooks on them, and then this is simply attached by 3 screws. And also, on the cage, we have 3 different levers. We have the standard lever with a standard slot. We have a wide lever, and then we have a really giant lever. I would say maybe over 60 even. Yeah.
Okay, so what we're talking about here are the string hooks. And the reason that they're different size string hooks is because the traditional ones work from whatever your lightest gauge is, let's say something, Billy Gibbons style, like a 7. Going all the way up to when do we have to change to the wide string hook? What gauge? About 48, 50?
I'd say around 48, 50.
Around
yes.
48, 50. You want to put the wide hook in wherever that gauge starts for you. Now, what about the extra wide? What gauge is that for?
If you're getting into
like 80,
a bass string,
right?
A small bass string, which people have done. The first thing we need to know is what gauge of string it is, right, and who makes it.
Let's talk a little bit about the difference between the fork and roller versus a complete saddle. So why don't you explain first what a fork and roller is? Because it's actually a fork, roller, and a pin.
And this fork has a roller in it, a riser screw, and a fork. Now, you can buy this in sets, just buying the fork with a roller.
We don't sell the individual rollers anymore because we don't want you to have to pull out that pin and things like that. It's easy to screw that up. Why don't you show them what a saddle is? Because the entire saddle consists of 9 pieces. The fork, the roller, the height adjustment screw, and the pin that holds the roller in. That's 4, but that leaves another 5.
All right, the complete saddle would be this fork, as it is. I'm going to tighten this screw.
Now that screw is one of those 9 pieces, and you're tightening down the compression plate, and that's what you use to intonate.
Yes? That's right. This is what you use to intonate. Now, I'm going to hold that in focus. I'll untighten it. And this is your intonator right here.
Right. And then that compression plate attaches to a piece that's underneath it that you cannot see if you flip that thing over. This right here is part of what makes the Kahler cam so versatile, is there is a screw on the other side to where you can loosen it up and you can change your string spacing.
That's a 50 thousandths. You unscrew this, and then this will slide on the pin so you can have any spacing that you want. Then you can go to your height adjustment right here, and by unloosening and tightening this screw, you can raise it or lower it however you want to.
This right here is kind of getting into next week's podcast, but there are those who make the comparison between the Floyd Rose being double locking and the Kahler being single locking. That is absolutely true. But the thing is that roller is crucial to what the Kahler does to break up the harmonic. And that's something that no fulcrum, not even the ones that we make, do, because they can't. With a double locking bridge, any double locking bridge, your string is one length, and that's it. With the Kahler, you actually will make your string either longer or shorter when you move that thing, and it is always transferred on that roller, which is the witness point, and that is what makes the harmonic go from perfectly intonated to breaking up and just screaming for mercy.
With this, the roller never leaves it, so you're going to hear that harmonic more defined as you move the witness point. And as you do that, it's got a different sound. We have a brass set.
Mm-hmm.
We have a steel set. And then we have a composite set of Teflon glass. This wide roller should go on anything. What would you say, Eddie?
I would say 48.
About a 48.
48.
Yeah, anything over a 48. A 48 may have a tendency to go out of the groove here if you're doing a lot of bending that high.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to do is a wide roller. There's no additional cost whatsoever for the wide roller.
Actually, you can email us at sales@kahlerusa.com and tell us exactly what you want. And that's the important distinction of the professional, is that regardless of if you choose bright chrome, black chrome, or gold, it's the same price. And that's kind of unheard of, because most of the time bright chrome is the cheapest and gold is the most expensive, almost across the board with everybody. On top of that, if you want a different cam, or if you want different rollers, or if you want this cam and I want these 2 rollers to be Teflon glass, but I want these 2 to be steel, but I want these 2 to be brass, or whatever, there is no additional charge. A 2300 costs what a 2300 costs. Your options, none of them are any additional charge. For just about every fulcrum out there, there are aftermarket companies that make aftermarket things in different colors or different materials or whatever. And as stated before, they'll use a very generic term like, these are titanium. And it's like, what grade of titanium? No, no, don't ask that. They're titanium. That's all you need to know. Well, not all titanium is created equal, people.
Now, we have one other option here. If for any reason your tremolo was installed too far to the rear,
yeah,
and you're having trouble with your highest string to intonate it, we have a long fork. Now I can show you that this fork will come out about that much further.
Now, there is one last thing that I want to bring up, and that is the hybrid versus the professional. And this is something that's pretty important to make this distinction here. The hybrid is exactly $100 less than the professional. Well, most of the time, if you're going to buy a significantly less expensive piece made by the same brand, it's going to be because they make it somewhere different and the manufacturing techniques are different. Typically, it's cheaper because they're using cheaper labor. Well, with the hybrid, it's made out of the same exact material in the same exact factory by the same exact people. A lot of the parts are exactly the same as the professional. I think there are only two parts that are actually different. Am I correct? The plate and the cam.
The plate is exactly the same.
Yep.
It just has
the hybrid stamped in it. Oh, and it's missing one screw hole. Oh. Because the professionals have 3 springs, whereas the hybrids only have 2.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, and then the cam is different too, and we're going to show you
explain that then.
Yeah.
Okay. All this, as Eddie has said, is of the same quality, the same everything. All our hybrids have the same brass cam in them. The only difference is it's not a 5-hole like this. It's a 3-hole like this. Believe it or not, there's a lot of labor goes into drilling these extra cross holes, making these IDs in the top and threading them out and fitting them and everything else. So we have 3-hole cams. Now, this is what we originally made in the 80s. We didn't have a 5-hole cam. We started out with 3 holes. And then we found out there was a bunch of left-handers out there.
You're left-handed.
I'm left-handed.
How could you forget that?
Yeah, I know. Everything here is retrofitting with all of our parts. For instance, you want to put a steel set of saddles on, you can do that. A composite set you want to change to a steel cam on this, you can do that. And so you can change a cam or this.
All the important things on the professional are on the hybrid, including that little lock screw on the back that will turn it into a fixed bridge. These whammy bars actually can be fixed bridges just by tightening down a screw. That's all it takes, and it's a fixed bridge, and it makes changing the screws, intonating it, setting it up, all that stuff ridiculously easy. If you are distorting the living hell out of your guitar, you might not notice. I say might because probably is a stronger word than I want to use, but you might not notice if you're first getting into Kahler and you want to save $100 and see what you're just what you're biting off, and if you like to chew it, save that $100 and get a hybrid. The hybrid comes with brass cam, brass rollers. Now, still the 3 colors: bright chrome, black chrome, gold.
And I could say they're ready to go out the door because
immediately
we'll make those 500 to 1,000 at a time, and therefore the longer the run and quantity dictates the price. I want you to talk about, I guess, the arm promotion and what we're going to do. Do you want me to say anything here?
We're going to put a link in, and there's an arm promotion, there's a contest, there's all kinds of neat stuff going on, and even a little tutorial about how to get the most out of your benders.
Yep.
That we are going to include. Gary shows you himself just how to bend this thing.
This is what you're going to get at no charge. That's 100% stainless steel, 303 and 360 half-hard brass, which is exactly what you would get in the finished arm. We could make something like this one here. So if you like a bend that goes up, you got to make sure you put it in the vise correctly. Otherwise, you're going to bend it the wrong way. So you put it in the vise. Tighten that baby down really good and tight and haul away on it. Okay, now look at kind of, I don't know what might want that, but they might. Now you can screw this on there. And you have your really custom arm. You say, well, I tell you what, I really like that part, but I got too much here. Well, okay. Then just simply put it back in the vise. You're going to have to take the knob off. Now this will be a little more tricky because this isn't going to go on all the way. So you got to hold your hand here. Pull it down. Doesn't have quite the bend. See what I mean?
I tried that thing out, and I love it.
Well, you can bend it with our bender any way you want to.
That thing right there puts that tip exactly where I like it. Next week will be why Kahler lost the Tremolo Wars. Hopefully some of those Floyd users are watching this and maybe they've gone like, oh, well, never thought of that. However, you still lost.
Yeah, but however, we survived.
I will say this again next week, but this is important. I was a teenager in the 80s. I turned 10 in 1980 and 20 in 1990. So my teenage years, that was all through the 80s. I watched the Tremolo Wars happen, and I got to tell you, just in the couple days that I have watched all these people say all the different things of why they feel that Floyd came out on top. Not only is almost all of it incorrect, but it's exactly what I believe too. Right. It really is, and that's just a lack of information, and we're going to clear all that up next week.
It's a lack of information for two reasons. First of all, there's a lot of legal stuff involved that we really can't discuss. More power to everybody. That's what I say. This is still the U.S. and it's the 4th of July, so...
You have freedom of choice.
You do. You still do. Now, I will tell you, if this import stuff keeps going like it is, you're not going to have freedom of choice because American manufacturers are going to be solidly out of business. All they'll be doing is R&Ding for every other creep in the world.
There you go.
And that is a vicious thing that's going on. And believe me, we experience it here every day. And I'm very pissed off about that.
And
because nobody's doing anything about it. The government won't do anything about it. Even when you make a complaint, they don't care. They won't stop things at the port of entry unless you hire an attorney for $10,000 who's going to put it to you. And if anybody else has any better ideas about how to do that, if you're an attorney out there, well, get a hold of us because we got a hell of a problem here with that.
Now, I think it's very important to point out this distinction. When you said the government won't do it, now that's not Republican or Democrat. That is just a blanket statement. The government, who you have to pay money for patents, will do nothing to help you defend your patent.
Well,
they won't.
If you have a new product, the first thing you got to do, I guess, is invent something.
Right.
You've got to research and develop it. It's got to work. Somebody says, hey, this is great. Okay, well, that's so great. So then you say, well, that's so great, I'm going to go get a patent. Well, first thing you do is you got to get a patent attorney. That patent attorney is going to want at least $5,000, which will turn into $10,000 overnight. And then you finally get a patent. Maybe, because it may have what we call patent interferences, and it will be rejected. And so, wow, you just lost that money. Once you got that patent, now you have the wonderful opportunity to defend it. Oh my God, I've spent millions of dollars defending the patents. And today, it's almost to the point. Why are you going to hire any attorneys to defend anything? Because all these counterfeiters are going to do it anyway. And that's a sad state of affairs.
You went through all that. You paid all these lawyers. You did all this stuff. You did everything right. And then somebody counterfeits it, and it's just like, well, tough titty, you know. And
no, that's absolutely. It's been going on since 1981.
Next week is going to be a really interesting podcast. I really hope you guys check it out, because we will, as much as legally possible, we will address all of the pertinent points and questions. On top of that, if there's something that legally we cannot answer because somebody will sue us, well, that'll be the answer. Can't answer that, somebody will sue us. But I think that we can answer pretty much everything I've seen so far in a way that is fairly safe. So that's it. And until next time, I've been Eddie Kernan.
Yeah, I'm Gary Kahler. And hey, thanks for watching it. And please stay tuned for the next podcast. It will be interesting.
All right. See you next week.
You bet.